Well, I was having a conversation the other day with a loved one and heard some very shocking information. They began telling me about Mesopotamian myths, which included Sumerian tablets, the Anunnaki, and reincarnation. Now, it does say in the Bible, I think it's Hebrews chapter 7, verse 29. Man is appointed to die once and face judgment. So under reincarnation, reincarnation don't fly against that verse. And supposedly the Anunnaki, they're extraterrestrials from Nibiru, which is the planet that's supposed to hit the Earth a couple of years ago, they were talking about. Oh boy. I'm going to take a pause with this loud car out there. And the Anunnaki went into an agreement with God about how human life should be, how it should go. But, Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, God created heaven and earth. And in Exodus, I think it's chapter 2 somewhere, God says he is a jealous God. So he's not making agreements with nobody. Even if they were extraterrestrials. I believe Anunnaki are myths also. And Sumerian tablets. A lot of it was used for record keeping. But I guess they slipped some myths in there as well. And they also mentioned the Epic of Gilgamesh, which I don't know much about Gilgamesh, but he's also mythological, just like Egyptian mythology, Roman mythology, Mesopotamian mythology. Every civilization back then seemed to have mythology and false gods and all that. But it reminds me, I had a conversation, it's been 10 years ago at least. We were at work and on break. And the topic somehow come around Christianity. And I was not a very well-educated Christian back then. I was just barely a Christian. And this guy started telling me all this crap about Gilgamesh, which, I can't remember all he said. It was a long time ago. And he said he had some videotapes he'd bring in for me to watch about Gilgamesh. And he asked me if I would watch them. I said, absolutely not. And 2 days later, this man died. It's not because of conversation, I'm sure, but I'm sure his beliefs showed him that he was very wrong. I feel bad for his soul. But the man was a drug addict. He He just tortured his body for years, and his heart just gave out one night. I guess that's what happened. But that was my first hearing of Gilgamesh, or shall I say the Epic of Gilgamesh, which it's all a myth. And you know, I'm not adverse to talking about pre-Adamic things, or even post-Adamic things. Like Genesis chapter 6 talks about the sons of God. Well, let me take that back just a little bit. It talks about how wicked people were, and how people were just eating, drinking, marrying. You know, it all sounded kind of lame to me. You know, they weren't accused of doing what the Sodom and Gomorrah were doing. But if you look into the book of Enoch and the book of Giants, you know, those are Gnostic, and they're not in the Bible because nobody knows who the author was, and they couldn't prove that it was inspired by God. But it says sons of God, which are the fallen angels, found earth women becoming. So they come down to earth and made a pact that they're all doing this together, and they'd all suffer the same consequences together. So they each took on an earth woman for a wife. And what they created was a race of giants. And they're called men of renown. The actual name of them was the Nephilim. And I do believe in that, because there were giants after the flood. That's what, it's noisy day. That's why Joshua was told to go into the promised land and kill every man, woman, and child and animal, because they were all hybrids. They weren't fully human. And then you have Goliath. He was a giant. So what these giants were doing back in Noah's time is they couldn't be satiated. They started eating mankind. And God wanted to wipe this out because of because they were hybrids. They were not fully human. They were half sons of God and half human. So that's what he did with the flood. He wiped them all out. Except some survived and were in the promised land. And that's when God told Joshua to kill every man, woman, child, and animal. Because not only did the fallen angels take human wives, they were going to animals too and making hybrid animals. So Yeah, I find that interesting and believable. And nobody's ever called it a myth yet. But, the Sumerian tablets were mostly record keeping, but they also contained all their myths, reincarnation, and whatever else, and whatever gods they worshipped. I think they worshipped the Anunnaki, and I was told that the Anunnaki passed on intelligence that they were not supposed to give to man. But actually what happened, it was the fallen angels who gave man knowledge they weren't supposed to have. And somehow in a roundabout way, I believe that led to all the megaliths. All those buildings with stones weighing tons, which nobody knows how they did it. They were cut so perfect, they did not need mortar, and they were earthquake proof. So, I think the knowledge from the angels, maybe half from the giants, I don't know. I think it's more the knowledge, that's how they got them built. Along with the pyramids too, they were built with very heavy individual stones. And they say they don't know how they got them there or how they built the pyramids. So there was an intelligence back then that we don't have today. And there's a theory about all these pyramids. They all conduct electricity. They're all lined up with stuff in space. How can I say it? Celestial, whatever. They're aimed at certain planets or stars or whatever. As these pyramids are found all around the world. They're in Egypt, of course. They're in Mexico. We have a bunch in Antarctica. We even have some here in America. And we had a lot of giant bones discovered here in America. And they were quickly whisked away by what they say is Smithsonian. Took everything and kept it under wraps. So those are things and theories that I will allow myself to explore. Rabbit holes, if you will. But, I'm not chasing any conspiracy theories of myths. That's losing your soul if you believe in that stuff. And I don't want this person to lose their soul. I know they're probably watching this video. Not trying to be harsh on you or anything bad. Just, I wish you'd listen to what I say and take a little correction in your thoughts and what you chase and what you read. So a lot of it sounds fascinating. It might even be believable too. That's what makes it so dangerous. But all those gods, the only gods I can think of is Gilgamesh. I think he was a god. and the Egyptian gods like, Apollo and Zeus and all that kind of stuff. I think it was Ishtar was god of war and destruction. And that's the god they have on a plaque or a statue in front of CERN. So that tells you about CERN. What they're searching for is the Big Bang. There could have been a Big Bang when God created heaven and earth. I'm not going to discount that, but things didn't evolve from the Big Bang the way Darwinists think. Man was created. He didn't evolve from a tadpole or a monkey or an ape or anything like that. And when we die, we face judgment. We don't get reincarnated into something else based upon how we lived our life. Hey, if you like this kind of content and others, like and subscribe. I will be bringing more of this, and I'll be bringing more, Social Security, disability information, and this lovely retirement life I'm living on Social Security disability. But, I just wanted to make sure those myths were exposed, and hopefully the person I'm talking to will, give it up, become Christ-centric. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through Him. So there's no mythological people who are going to reincarnate you. No. I'm not going to judge you on what type of life you led and put you in the appropriate vessel for reincarnation. No. Your judgment will be, well done, good and faithful servant, or I never knew you, depart from thee. That's what the judgment is, and that's after you die. That will be the final judgment. What happens in the time between you dying and the judgment? I would like to think our souls go to their eternal destination, and then we're just, the souls who went to hell are judged, to spend eternity in hell. And those of us who made it in heaven will be judged on what we did and our works and receive specific crowns for specific things. Like we'll all get the crown of life if we go to heaven. So that's all I know about heaven. I don't pretend to know it all, but something where Jesus said He's going to go build us mansions. I'd much rather look for that than I would burning in hell for eternity. Eternity is a long, long time. So be not double-minded. Only focus on Christ. He is the one. He's the way, the truth, and the life. Don't forget that. That is the most important thing in this life. It's being Christ-centric, centered on Christ, centered on Jesus, having Jesus as your Savior. Okay, I think I'll wrap it up with that. I believe I'm going to come back with another video today about Social Security disability. So be looking for that. Don't forget to like and subscribe.